So the best thing you can do is start to reach out to them. And your ISA can help. And but this is really true of expires and FSBOs, right? Sometimes people want to go for the kill on that first call. Guys, it doesn't work. Even in the best circumstances, it doesn't work that way, right? These people need a process. They need to, it's a kind of come to Jesus moment. They have to be ready to go. But whoever sticks with them and follows up with them and finds ways to add value can win even with an expired or for sold by owner.
If the only times that I call you are times when I ask you, who do you know that wants to buy or sell, would you really believe that I have your best interest at heart? Probably not. And so no matter what story I'm telling, you're not believing it. And then I always leave this one for last. This is authenticity.
Got some folks coming in.
All right. Well, we got some folks coming in as you join the group here today. Pretty excited to talk about something that I really think is really vital as we move forward, as we start to see some market shift is, how are we going to have more conversations with more buyers? How are we going to have more conversations with more sellers? How do we do this? Because, it's a challenge. And as times change, we're going to start to get new objections. We're going to start having a lot of different stuff happen. So I'm here with Gus from PowerISA, and he's going to give us the insight on how to do some of this stuff today. And as I've used PowerISA for years, they're a great company. And, I could personally say that. That's Gus didn't pay me to say that. So anyway, without any further ado, Gus, give us kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about today, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Brian. Appreciate the kind words. It's been great working with you as well. So today, the topic for today is a good one, right? How can a real estate ISA, how can your ISA cold call more homeowners, right? That's kind of the goal. And it's a really interesting time right now in the market, right? Because, we're starting to see the effects of higher interest rates. We're starting to see some of these flaming hot markets become just hot markets, right? And some of the more cooler markets go in another direction. So I feel we're going to see some kind of more balance in the market. We're going to see some kind of shift, at the very least, from a piping hyper hot seller's market to maybe more of just a seller's market, a regular seller's market. At least you're going to see something like that. And whenever you have a shift happening in any kind of marketplace, it's really important as a business owner, as an agent, to have more than one lead source. Okay, guys, it's really, really important. If you are just doing referral and recommendation, and you've done great that way, that's awesome. Just understand, in a market shift, any one particular lead source might accelerate or it might slow down. You just know it's going to change. That's the one certainty, right? Things are not going to be the same as last year. And it's important to understand. And the teams, this is a huge advantage for the teams that are prospecting based, right? The advantage of being prospecting based is that you've got some kind of an idea of how much work it takes to get a buyer's appointment, to get a listing appointment. You know how much effort it takes, and the effort might go up. It might take more calls to get that appointment with a potential seller, but you have a way to accelerate that. Whereas if you have a database you're relying on, if that database is unsure, uncertain, does not produce as much as it used to, there's not a lot more you can do immediately to change that if you're just relying on your database, right? And this coming from a guy, I built my business in real estate from my database. I had a list of 200 people and I would get 30 transactions for them year over year. And I love that. That's a great way to build a business. But in a market shift, you're gonna be standing on steady ground if your stool has 3 legs. If it only has 1 leg, you might be in for a pretty rough time. So today, I think is really, really timely in that sense. How can we have more conversations with home sellers? One of the ways to add leverage into your business is to have an ISA making some of these calls. Really, really important to understand that. An ISA, a lot of people ask me sometimes, Gus, when is the right time to add an inside sales agent to my team? There's only one simple way for me to answer that. It shouldn't be the first person you hire. I know that for a fact, right? That's probably not the first person that joins your team. You probably should have an administrative assistant or at least a transaction coordinator helping you out with some of those tasks, making sure things get done, inspections get scheduled, all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Because that, if you have an assistant on your team, that means you've got business coming in, you've got some kind of process, a system for lead generation. Because to be the most successful with an ISA, you have to have them plug into a system, right? And you know, Brian here's the coach. I mean, I virtually you can speak to that. Brian, one of the reasons, and Brian knows what he's doing in general, but one of the reasons he's been so successful in ISA, the ISA plugs into a system. They execute on a plan. And Brian didn't rely on either the ISA or us to figure out, okay, great, what should we do today? Like, okay, you know, we execute on the plan that Brian had a proven system to follow up and convert leads. That is how you can have the most success with an ISA. Okay, really, really important to understand that. So that being said, that's when you get an ISA, when you've got at least that assistant and you've got some kind of regular flow of business and you've got a project for them to hand off to. That's another way you have success with an ISA. You're handing off tasks to them. You're handing off a proven system you know works. You're handing off something that you know how to do, preferably, you know how to do it. And you know what to expect from that kind of a lead source or that kind of an activity. Really, really important. Because I see a lot of agents struggle if they are referral and recommendation based, and they're starting with, usually it's one of two things. They're either starting with internet leads or they're starting with outbound prospecting. That's a tough transition to make always. Going from referral recommendation to cold prospecting or inbound lead, internet lead conversion, it's tough. And it's tough for one single reason. Your expectations can be wildly off. They can be off. They're just, you're not going into it with the right expectation. When I met with a referral from my database, 90% of the time they were going to sign on the dotted line, buyer agreement or listing agreement. 90% conversion rate. I tracked it, right? It wasn't 100 because people are people. It happens sometimes, right? But 90% of the times I'd sit down with them, I'm walking away with a signed client. If a lead is coming from the internet, or they're coming from a cold prospecting activity, you're meeting with them. So, and Brian, you can tell me what you've heard, but what I see if for the listing, 25 to 30% conversion rate is really good. If you work your scripts and you have a great value proposition, 25 to 30% conversion rate on a cold listing appointment is an excellent conversion rate. On the buyer side, you can get away with more. A really good, well-run team can probably do 50% conversion on those internet buyer leads into signed clients. It's a little bit less. It's still hard though. 50% is different than 90%. Okay, so it's really important to understand that it's a different conversion. And Brian, I don't know what you've seen with your clients and your business, but when it's a transition. You go from easy money to you only eat what you kill. And you got to hunt for these folks.
Well, and I think you make some really good points in there, Gus. So, you know, one of the things, and it's funny, as the market shifts, and the market is shifting. And by the way, I love what Gus said. We're not shifting from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Guys, this thing's a spectrum. It's a pendulum. And by the way, if we're way over here on the seller's market, we really only moved here. We're nowhere close to this, oh my God, it's a buyer's market. Oh my God, the market's going to crash. Nowhere close to that. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it ain't going to happen today. So, but that being said, here's something I think a lot of people are missing. And I love that we're talking about sellers today. Sellers are still the best option that we have, right? No matter what, today, sellers are what we want. I mean, if you have sellers, you're controlling the market. But here's a stat that's very interesting to me. 81% of sales happen on the fifth conversation, not the fifth contact, by the way. That's not I sent 5 emails and therefore I'm having an 81% conversion rate, but 5 conversations. Now, the majority of agents, if we're looking at, you know, when you're talking about, I'm assuming we're talking about circle prospecting or some version of that. I don't know most agents who are out there, you know, it's funny because I heard my coach say this. He goes, most agents aren't lazy. That's a perception we have. Oh, agents are lazy. That I don't believe that, but I do believe agents are busy. So how many people have time to have 5 conversations with every cold lead? You know, to Gus's point, if I have a conversation, if Gus sends me a referral, says, you know, I've known Brian for 5 years. He's a great guy. He's the guy you should list your house with. I call that guy and I say, hey, Gus said I should come over to your house, and I show up. Like, you don't even have to be good. Now, you need to be good in the presentation, still be professional. I'm not saying that, but the hard part in most cases is getting the appointment. So ask yourself this: do you have time for 5 no's or 4 no's before yes? And that's why we create this leverage. And that's why so many people go, I'm just going to do Sphere, past client referrals, because that's all I can do. And here's the thing: I don't need you guys to become experts at circle prospecting. I don't need you to become experts at seller conversion on the phone. That's why we're talking about hiring an ISA. So yes, absolutely. And here's the thing: this is an old thing that's become new again, right? The fortunes in the follow-up. So realistically, circle prospect, and maybe you want to talk about some of those numbers, maybe how many calls an ISA realistically is going to make in a day, and then what percentage of those conversations turn into appointments. And I love what you said about the stools, by the way. Such a perfect thing. So many people go, this is my business. Well, if you weren't a real estate agent in 2008, go talk to somebody who was a real estate agent in 2008 who only had one leg of business, and that was Sphere and past clients. By the way, still a great source, right? An amazing source. But if that's your only source, as markets shift, it's completely unpredictable. So, it's just, my favorite word is and. Do I want to work my Sphere and past clients? Absolutely. And maybe I'm going to add an ISA as an option. So anyway, I think those are some good numbers to talk about, Gus. Realistically, what can I expect from an ISA? Someone who's trained. Now, that's the other thing. Why did I use PowerISA? Because I don't want to train an ISA. I didn't have that kind of time, just to be honest. Didn't mean we didn't talk, didn't mean I didn't do some training, but that is the beauty of outsourcing something like an inside salesperson, is I don't have to spend 2, 3, 4 hours a day training this person. So anyway, I'd love to hear some information about that.
For sure, 100%. Yeah. So let's jump into the topic, which is how to get that ISA to cold call these homeowners. And number one step, like Brian mentioned, number one step is your ISA needs a specific type of campaign. You got to pick this before they even start calling. What are they going to dial? Specific. I have to call. They need a list and they need a strategy. They need a list and they need a strategy, okay? When you're doing any kind of cold calling campaign. And Brian just touched on one of the most popular ones, which is circle prospecting. That's one of the campaigns you can pick. What does circle prospecting mean? It means that you've got a listing somewhere, you've just put it on the market, you want to let everyone around it, draw a circle around that address and call everyone you can, let them know the good news. And by the way, have they ever thought of maybe selling their home in the future? Because you've got 15 buyers from that last deal that are looking in that neighborhood, or when the home just sold. Preferably you did both. When the home just sells, hey, we just had this property going to contract. We had 5 buyers that tried to get in that couldn't get it. Do you know anyone that might be thinking of, moving in the next 6 to 12 months? Anyone at all, right? That is when you have a listing. And I know what some people are saying, guys, if I had listings, I wouldn't have an issue, right? In some of these great neighborhoods. And guess what? You're in luck. It doesn't matter if you don't have a listing there. Your team might have one. Your brokerage might have one. And if you don't, I guarantee you at least have a lot of buyers in the pipeline. You might have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buyers looking in the neighborhood. That's another great reason to circle prospect that neighborhood, because the script is really simple. I have 5 qualified buyers looking for a property in this neighborhood. I'm doing right by them. I want to help them. Who do you know that might be thinking of relocating, even if it's in the next 6 to 12 months? We're willing to wait for the right property. Do you know anyone at all? They say something great. How about yourself? That's a real question I want to ask, right? Have you ever thought of doing this, right? That is really important to understand. So that is the campaign. That's circle prospecting, and the strategy around circle prospecting, which Brian kind of alluded to, is you want to get people in your pipeline, but also understand the expectation. You're going to get qualified seller leads with a potential horizon of 12 months out, right? And sometimes folks go, oh, no, how am I going to eat today? I don't want to have people that are 12 months out. And the reality is you need both kinds of clients. You need
Amen.
Now business, right? And now business, Brian, I don't know what you think, but now business on the seller side translates into talking to people at open houses that might have homes to sell. We're talking about prospecting expireds FSBOs, or online lead generation. That is more now business. And by now business, I mean 3 to 6 months out. That's what I mean by now business, right? Because these leads take some effort. But you also need those prospects that are 6 to 12 months out, because that's going to be your pipeline for sellers. And circle prospecting is excellent at that. So understand the strategy of circle prospecting. One of our clients in Seattle, Washington, we built them a list of 1,000 qualified seller leads. And he used that to become the top 5 agents in his brokerage for 3 years from one list. Again, they didn't all list immediately, didn't all sell, not at all, right? But he took one list of 1,000 seller nurtures and was able to get 30, 40, 50, 60 transactions. A solo agent, by the way, not a team, solo agent, one of the top producers in Bothell, Washington, because he had that pipeline. The pipeline matters. The pipeline is valuable. You just have to assign the right expectation, the right criteria to it. A great conversion rate for circle prospecting is 50 conversations to 1 qualified seller lead. And some people can do it in less. That's great. That's excellent. As an average, that's what we're seeing across the board. 50 conversations, 1 qualified seller lead. In some markets, you can have 50 conversations by noon, right? Because you're probably on a power dialer. Circle prospecting benefits enormously. And I'm going to talk about dialers in a second, but you need some kind of automation, some kind of power dialer to work that, because you need to dial a lot of numbers to talk to people with these circle prospecting scripts. That's just the name of the game. It's very different than dialing inbound internet leads or your database or even expired in FSBO. It takes a lot of dials to have one of those conversations. In some markets, by noon, you've got 50 conversations in the bag. It's great. In other markets that are tougher, it can take 2 days to have 50 conversations with potential sellers, okay? So you've got to understand that. You got to figure out what that strategy is going to be. But circle prospecting is one of those things, folks, that every team should have someone calling that, right? If you're a team, the newbie can do it, right? Your ISA can do it. Otherwise, you have to do it, because it's something you should be doing, because it builds that long-term pipeline for your business. And that's going to be really, really, really valuable. That list is going to be valuable 6 months from now, 12 months from now. And then the business is going to be pouring in. But you have to have the right expectation, and you have to have the stomach for that. A lot of folks, and again, I'm not saying that circle prospecting won't get you appointments like right away. It can. But 90% of the benefit is going to come 6 to 12 months down the road. That's just the nature of that beast, right? So that's one great strategy, one great way to do it, one great campaign. It's a list and a strategy. How do you get that circle prospecting list? Multiple ways. One of the easiest, seamless systems like Mojo Dialer. They can sell you those circle prospecting lists. RedX, who is a LCA partner, they sell circle prospecting lists. I think they have the RedX Plus, I think gives you 5,000 numbers, every month or something. There's some kind of cap on it. You do need thousands though. You do need thousands to get that in there for sure. It's a great deal. There's other sources like those. Co-information is another one that we've used a lot for years and years. Co-information. MyPlusLeads.com. MyPlusLeads.com, another great resource to get circle prospecting lists for pretty much any county, any zip code in the US. So you've got these different tools. I would use any of those. I would jump in there and get it done. If you already have a dialer like Mojo, just go there. If you already have a system like RedX for expires and FSBOs, get the Plus product to get those additional circle prospecting numbers in there. So the list for circle prospecting is actually relatively easy to get. So get it in there and start dialing, okay? Really, really important. Another type of campaign that you can use for outbound dialing is what I like to call specialty lists, okay? I put them under the umbrella of specialty lists. They're not FSBOs, they're not expired, not circle prospecting. There's something that you've teased out of the general population to call these people. There's something about them that makes them more likely to be a motivated seller that isn't an expired and a FSBO. Number one, they should be calling right now are absentee owners, folks. And you might have heard that term before. It's a person that on a property record, they're the owner of the property, but their mailing address is not the address of the property. That's the simplest definition of an absentee owner. They can be living down the street in another city, in another county, outside the country, for all you know. but you want to get their contact information because you want to let them know that where the market's at. You want them to know what their current property value is. And here's the crazy part. For these absentee owners, you can add a tremendous amount of value because they might not even live in the same state anymore. Guys, after COVID, I don't know if you knew this, people moved around a lot. 6.2 million last year alone, right? So people moved all over the place. So people might be absentee home. And guess what? Another thing about absentee landlords, if you were a landlord in the last 2 years, trust me, they were probably the least profitable 2 years of your life as a landlord because of the restrictions under COVID, all these emergency situations, etc. I have 2 rental properties in Seattle. Let me tell you, I used to pay taxes last month. It was a bloodbath, guys. 2021 was not a good year to be a landlord. A lot of these folks are thinking of potentially selling that property. The moratoriums have lifted pretty much all over the country. You have that opportunity to do that. They're getting rid of bad tenants that didn't pay, tenants that XYZ reason, and they might be thinking of getting another tenant, or they seriously might be considering offloading that property. I have 2 rental homes in Seattle. Brian, I want you to guess. We need to rehearse this. This is real. Brian, how many real estate agents, and I'm an absentee owner, how many agents do you think called me in the last 24 months since COVID started asking me, and Seattle is one of those nuclear hot sellers markets. It is beyond a seller's market. Whatever's next, that's what Seattle is. How many agents do you think called me asking me if I wanted to unload 1 or 2 of those properties? What do you think? Ballpark guess.
I'm going to just take a complete wag here. I'll say 5.
All right. So it was 2 people, and one of them literally was a couple weeks ago. Like I was going around saying only 1 person had called me in 2 years. Well, someone called me the other day. Okay, well now it's 2. 2 in 2 years called me asking, and with a pretty generic script. They didn't even mention the property address, by the way. They said, hey, I think you're, they didn't even know what property they were calling about. They were just calling to see if it might have even been a circle prospecting call. I got it as a voicemail. But the important thing is this, most agents aren't calling these folks, right? The only people that are really prospecting these absentee owners are investors. Wholesalers or flippers, these are the folks they've probably been in contact with because those guys always have to work harder for their deals. I don't know what it is about them. They're pretty intense about lists, but you've got great news. Usually that script starts this way. Mr. Seller, I'm not an investor. I don't want to give you cash for your property, right? I want you to sell at the top of the market. That's usually how that script starts because they've been contacted by people that want them, give them close right away as is condition. Investors, folks, they want a deal. They're looking for the most motivated potential sellers. Luckily, they don't care about people that want to sell the top of the market. Most investors, for reasons that I don't know about, they don't even care about handing off these listings to anyone. They ignore them. It's more efficient to find the most motivated seller and move on and ignore everybody else. You're in luck. As an agent, you can talk to them, offer them tons of value because they're probably not even going to visit the property at some point, right? You can add a ton of value and they're an underutilized resource. If anyone's listening to this and you haven't tried an absentee owner list, give it a try because I pretty much guarantee you're going to be talking to a potential motivated seller within the first 30 minutes. It's pretty crazy, right? Maybe in the first 60 minutes, you're going to be on the phone with a potential seller. I don't know any other lead source outside of Expired and FSBO that can accomplish that. And guess what? They're not mad at you like an Expired or FSBO probably is. So it's an underutilized resource, really, really good one. Another one you should be checking out, Downsizers. This is going to be very location specific because we tried this campaign in South Florida. And guess what? There's a lot of people over 65. They don't want to move in Florida.
They already moved.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're already living there. They're not going to sell their home. That makes sense. But in most of the country, folks that are a certain age, 65 and above, they've got a 2-story home. They don't want stairs anymore. They might be thinking of moving to Florida, someplace warmer. At the very least, they want to move to a 1-story or condominium kind of setup. They might be going to assisted living. They might be going to a nursing home. We don't know, right? But this is a community. There's 2 things I love about this demographic. Number 1, they pick up the phone, right? That the connection rate for Downsizers is off the charts compared to the general population, right? It's easier to get them on the phone, guys, right? A lot of them have landlines still, okay? You can actually have more conversation. Number 2, A lot of them like to have conversations, like to talk to someone, right? And if you show genuine interest, right, in helping them out, finding out what their life circumstance is, this is a great demographic, very loyal. In my culture, like Mexico, Hispanics in the US, the older folks are like the matriarchs of the family, right? So if you win with them, you're going to get 15, 20 other people that are going to be getting your number, right? Because they love talking about how awesome people they work with are. So a lot of reasons that I like this demographic, and also one that's underserved. And here's a bonus tip, a pro tip, right? If you're an agent that has a lot of these assisted living or retirement communities in your area, and by many, I mean 5 or 10 of them, they were in Seattle. I didn't know who wanted to, retire in the rainiest, one of the coldest parts of the country. But anyways, they were even in Seattle, so probably everywhere. So another way, bonus tip, one of my clients did this and I thought it was amazing. They put their ISA to call all of the assisted living, retirement community, nursing homes in their area to set up appointments with the team there and introduce themselves and tell them what they could do to their potential residents, right? So, and again, this is not going to be a gold mine, but if you can get 1, 2, or 3 referrals from each one of these communities per year, that is worth the price of admission. I thought that was a brilliant strategy because this client of mine, he worked really well with this demographic. He keyed it off all the time. He was a great person to work with. And the people that run these facilities knew that. And guess what? A lot of them already had quote unquote preferred agents that they hadn't seen in years, guys, right? Even if they've got someone that's supposed to be that all the referrals go to, the person that actually shows up and asks for that business can potentially get it. So that's another way to approach the downsizer community. Great community. I love that. If you have that possibility, look into it because I think the latest NAR statistics said they're 20% of the market. Folks that are 65 and above selling. They have the most equity too, and that number is projected to grow, right? They are a massive amount of the homeowners in this country, and more of them are going to find something more appropriate, more comfortable, or moving into a kind of assisted living kind of facility. So be a resource and help them out. Similar to the absentee owner, a third reason I like them, similar to the absentee owner, they can really benefit from a full service agent. They need help cleaning the property. They need help with the move. They need help with every aspect of the transaction, right? So be that person, be that resource, offer the full service package, and you're going to be able to win with that. So I'm really, really excited about those downsizers. Another kind of folks you should look into, some of the more of these specialty lists can go on and on. Probate, I consider a specialty list. Divorce, folks that are going through a divorce, I consider a specialty list. And those are public lists, folks, in most states. You can get a list of people that have filed for divorce, lists of people that are in the probate process. You can generate all through all of those. A lot of these tools, the same tools, talk about lists, the same tools have these. RedX has the absentee owners. Vulcan 7 has these lists too. And you can actually buy the specific list from a vendor like Share Group, SHARE, Share Group. A lot of these folks have these different specialty lists. The challenge is that they're not that big, right? They can maybe be 500 to up to 1,000 people per list. So it's way different than a circle prospecting list. But this is one you want to be careful with because you do not need a power dialer for these. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You do not need a 2-line, 3-line, 4-line, 5-line dialer for these specialty lists. In fact, the opposite is true. The fact of the circle prospecting lists is that it takes a lot of dials because a lot of numbers are out of service, they're out of date, they might not be accurate. You need to go through a lot of numbers to contact people. Not so with these specialty lists. You've got a higher chance of talking to someone that's an accurate match with these lists than with circle prospecting. We always single dial these lists. 1-line dialer, right? They're like, oh my God, absolutely true. So the rule of thumb is the more expensive and the higher value the list is, the slower you want to dial it. Okay. The slower you want to dial it because you want to maximize your connection rate, your contact rate. The multi-line dialers, they are basically like a steamroller. Okay. They chug through numbers like crazy, looking for the few folks that are going to pick up their accurate numbers. Great. That's awesome. With these other lists, think of expired and FSBOs. You don't need a power dialer to call expires and FSBOs. You don't need that, folks, right? because those are harder to find. There's more effort and work done to match the owner of that home with that phone number. It's more of a process. So you don't need a power dialer for these kinds of specialty lists. And this is much more immediate business than circle prospecting is. This is, I would say it's somewhere in between circle prospecting and expired and FSBO. Expired and FSBO is now business. You have the potential to call a person and show up at their home that day. That's what expired and FSBO is. And circle prospecting is 6 to 12 months out. These specialty lists are in between. They can be pretty close to for sale by owner, or they can be part of your pipeline. I would place them in the middle of that, how likelihood of conversion, right? On the time horizon for conversion. So I put them in the middle of that. So it's something your ISA can definitely do, right? And I've mentioned this a few times already. We've talked about dialers, right? So I want to touch on that topic too. This is essential for your ISA to do cold calling for homeowners. And I've already mentioned the two big buckets, the power dialers, multi-line dialers. Mojo's one of them. You've got another one that I've been using very recently that I really like is one called batch dialer, BATCH, batch dialer. Very similar to Mojo, you're up and running within about 10, 15 minutes. It's very easy to configure, very easy to set up. There's a pretty awesome advantage of batch dialer versus Mojo though. And I'm going to share it here with you guys. Guess what? If you do a lot of cold prospecting, cold calling now in today's day and age, you're going to run into an issue, which is your number can get burned. What do I mean by that? You're going to notice that on day one, your connection rate might be, for cold calling for us, probably about 25, 30%. You have to dial 3 numbers to have one connection, right? One connection. Great. On day 2, it's going to take 10 numbers to get that connection. On day 3, it might take 20, 30, 40, 50. What happened? What's going on, Gus? When I hit a rough patch in the list. No, your number got tagged as an unsolicited call, or even worse, it got tagged as a robocall, as a potential scam. All of these things happen to folks that are doing outbound prospecting. It's just part of the game now. iOS, Android, or the carriers themselves have systems to tell people, oh yeah, Gus, probably calling you to do circle prospecting. You don't want to pick this one up. You can skip this call. That's what they're trying to do. So one of the innovative things some of these dialers are able to accomplish is that they can detect, once you detect that your contact rate dramatically, and it's not like a 1 or 2% change, guys. No, I'm talking about half the connection rate from one day to the next. Then you know it's a number issue, okay? So with batch dialer, with a click of a button, you've got a new phone number. Problem solved. This is the only way that I've seen that effectively mitigates that issue. And this, again, in some markets, it can take a day, and some of them, it can take longer than that, right? But as soon as you see a connection rate change, significant, 50% less, the first thing you should do, switch out the number, and you're going to see a pretty dramatic shift. So that is just part of the game of doing this nowadays. Really important to understand that. That is the biggest thing that I would invest in a dialer. Ring Central, we're talking about single line dialers, Ring Central can also do the same thing. Click, new number. Let's keep going. Really important to understand this. Use the technology to your advantage, guys. Really, really important to do, okay? So that is kind of what I want to say about dialers. Number one, distinguish what kind of list needs what kind of dialer. Circle prospecting needs that steamroller kind of a dialer. These higher value lists, they don't need, in my opinion, they don't need that. I don't think it's effective. If you have a lot of lost calls or numbers that you don't connect with, you lose a lot with these specialty lists. Not so much with circle prospecting. It's a trade-off, and it always works out. You have to dial more numbers faster with circle prospecting. Brian asked earlier, what's a good number for an ISA to call? In circle prospecting, realistically, 600 to 800 per day is a good number. I wouldn't probably go past 1,000, because then you're not going to talk to anybody if you're dialing that fast. You're probably missing a lot of calls.
Real quick, Gus, 600 dials a day. Let's go on the low end of that, okay?
Yeah.
600 dials a day. Realistically, what's your contact rate?
Realistically, I would say it's going to be the 10% range. 10%
okay,
is a good.
That's better than I thought.
Yeah, it's a good contact rate. 10% is a good contact rate. Yeah,
so
realistically, for circle prospecting.
Let's go to 8.5. So 50 conversations a day, right? And here's the thing I want everyone listening to think about. When's the last time you, as a real estate agent, had 50 real estate conversations in a day. And I can tell you the answer for me is somewhere between never and never. I don't know that I've ever had, and I'm a pretty successful agent, right? I sold almost 100 houses one year as a single agent. So here's the thing. It's great. This is a leverage that if you're a single agent, or honestly, if you're on a team, if you don't have somebody doing this for you, you will never touch these numbers. And here's the really cruddy part about it. So, okay, so if I talk to 50 people, how many appointments am I going to get realistically? Maybe, I don't know, probably 200 to an appointment, a short-term appointment, right? Maybe somewhere in the range of, so you might even get, say, one appointment a week. But here's the beauty of this, and this is something that Gus alluded to earlier, and I'm going to use my own verbiage, it's and. So, and I fell into this trap, and most agents do, like, especially as a single agent just starting out, you're like, yeah, this is great, Brian, but I need to eat this week. And you're talking to me about 12, 18, 24 months out. And I agree. So here's the thing. You have a choice, and this is what this piece of leverage is all about. Yeah, on the front end of real estate, yeah, you're going to have to do open houses. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to do, and then what you do is you invest in your business so you still can do that other stuff. But now you've got these 6 months from now, all of a sudden, hey, remember that lead that Gus got? Now they're ready to list. And oh, this guy, oh, and so it's kind of like this. And when I did REO, it was similar to this. I'd wake up and go, look, I got a new listing today. And it's not that easy. I'm not remotely suggesting that. But if you don't have somebody prospecting for you long term, you never get to wake up and go, oh, and by the way, 6 months in this business goes like this. We all want business right now. I'm included in that. But we've got to have this and system, and you have to have leverage in place. If otherwise, you're just going to be a grinder your entire career. I respect grinding, but it's really hard. So this is a great piece of leverage, and I want people to think about that. And I love some of the lists you brought up, right? Divorce, 61% of people going through a divorce will sell their house in 12 months. 61%. Wow. How many of those conversations do I want to have a week? So these are the kind of things that Gus is talking about. I apologize for cutting you off. It was just, I was excited about that. Super important for people to look at this from that perspective, in my opinion.
100%, right? Yeah. And that 10% contact rate is going to get you 50 to 60 conversations with that kind of a dialing rate. It absolutely will, right? So that you got to know those numbers. You got to know those numbers, because if that's 5%, then you got to crank it up. You got to crank it up, because how long will it take you to get those 50, 60 conversations that you need to make? And another thing about divorces potentially have 3 transactions originating from that. They have to sell a property, and they have to find a place to live, all the other 2 people, right? So again, it's one of those situations where, yeah, it's a difficult situation for them, but you can be a resource, help them through that. Same with probate. Probate's a difficult I've sold probate homes. They absolutely needed help. They needed guidance. They might not even live in the same state the property is located, right? So understand that, and position yourself as a resource. You're here to help and guide them through this difficult time, whether that's probate, whether that's a divorce, no matter what the situation is. You're there to help people, help them navigate this kind of a situation, because trust me, that is the last thing on their mind if they're going through the probate or the divorce process. So you want to help them out and be that person, and you can have a really good outcome for them, right? In spite of everything that happened, you can help them have a good outcome of that situation. So I think you should put your mindset that way, and those calls are way, way easier to make, 100%. So make sure you look at it that way. So another thing we want to talk about before we're done is we're talking about the pipeline and building it. At the very top of the funnel is sort of prospecting. Further down on these specialty lists, I didn't want to end this without saying how your ISA can help you convert expireds and FSBOs, okay? Expired and FSBOs. I don't want to leave them out. I've been mentioning them as, I've been contrasting them. Let's say it nicely. I've been contrasting them to these other methods, right? But guess what? Expired and FSBO is still a solid way to get listings. And as the market shifts, guess what we're going to see? We're going to start to see more of these expired listings. They were basically unheard of. And I know what people are saying, Gus, I barely have any. And the one I have are nuts, right? Well, that was the end of last year. The hottest market on record, lowest amount of inventory, as long as they've been tracking national inventory. I get it. We're not going to see that this year, okay? The market is shifting. Market is changing. So if I were you, I would stop assuming things and take a look at your MLS. How many listings? This is the first of the month. How many listings expired yesterday? I promise you, it's going to be dramatically different than 12 months ago, last May of 2021. Promise you that. And guess what? End of this month, June, it's going to be different than last year's, right? You're going to see more of these. And you're going to see a return to some reasonableness from these expired listings. So the best thing you can do is start to reach out to them. And your ISA can help. And but this is really true of expires and FSBOs, right? Sometimes people want to go for the kill on that first call. Guys, it doesn't work. Even in the best circumstances, it doesn't work that way, right? These people need a process. They need to, it's a kind of come to Jesus moment. They have to be ready to go. But whoever sticks with them and follows up with them and finds ways to add value can win even with an expired or for sale by owner. I'll give a couple examples. We have one client outside of Chicago suburb, Chicago land, whatever they call it, right? And they get 2 to 3 for sale by owner listings every day. It's a big area. 2 to 3 for sale by owners every single day. So this person has a process for sale by owners. They've built their business, even now in the last 2 years, on for sale by owners. And they know the timeline for them to convert that for sale by owners is 3 months. 3 months, 9 touches minimum, probably closer to 16 touches in 3 months. And the process is really simple. It consists in this: checking in with them. Hey, how's it going, right? And you're not there to fight with them. It's how is the process of that home sale going? You get any offers this week? Get any showings? I would love to help you get that property sold. Are you ready to talk to an agent that can make this happen because of blah, blah? And he has a great offer, because I help people just like yourself get that home sold and get you into the next phase of your life, right? So come up with a great pitch, a great hook like that, and they're going to say no the first time, because that's just part of the process. Oh,
5
no,
no's.
yeah,
5 no's.
at least 5 no's. Yeah, with FSBO, they always go to double. Give yourself a cushion, 10 no's, but you're going to get that business. Follow up with them, because if they haven't sold in that first week and they haven't sold in that second week, guys, they need help, right? They're mispriced. They're misrepresented. They've got something wrong. If there's real motivation to sell at home, keep following up, and give them some bits of value. This guy, what he does, I thought was brilliant. Sends them a printed how to sell your home guide, right? He wants to get in front of them. It's not a listing presentation, but it does say all that needs to be done to get that home sold. The likelihood that that home seller can do it all on their own is low. Okay, it's low, but they even understand how to do it. But he gives it to them, right? Lets them put it on there. He will take down their information and put their property on their off-market property list. This is a thing. He calls FSBOs, and at the very least, he adds them to the off-market property list that he uses to hook as a hook for buyers, by the way. I mean, like, smart, really great idea, right? So you're getting 2 birds with 1 stone. At the very least, you're qualifying them, getting the property information, and you're following up, typically Monday, Tuesdays of every week, because they just felt the kind of the loss of not getting any offers that weekend again and again and again. Those are the ones you want to look for. The FSBO that sell within 1 day, okay, that's not an opportunity for you guys. But if they haven't sold second week, third week, you want to be the person following up. And that's where an ISA can be really powerful. They deliver that. They're not trying to get the listing appointment. That's not the goal. Are they ready to sell the property? That's what you're asking, because my agent can really get this done for you. This is what we do. We help folks like yourself get this property sold. And he has it down to a science. It can take up to 3 months, 8, 9 touches minimum, probably more than that. And they're ready to give up and say, okay, great. You know, Gus, you guys have been following up with me. I want to hear what you guys have to say. That's where you want to get the FSBO, right? You're not combating them. You're not doing bait and switch. You're not fighting with them to get the listing appointment, right? Again, maybe those tactics work, but I'm telling you, there's an alternative to that. Value first, follow up. You want to be the person there that's still checking in with them when they're ready to accept reality and see what you have to offer. That's what we want to do, okay? Expires, before we run out of time. Really similar approach, whether it's an expire from 3 years ago or an expire that expired this month, May of 2022, you want to always, it's a little bit of a different script, because you want to ask them why they think the property hasn't sold. What are they doing differently this time to make it happen? Are they still interested in selling the property, right? Another opportunity to at least add them to your off-market property list, but you want to understand where they're at. Are they ready to talk to the agent? They can actually get their home sold, right? And they might be in different stages of grief from having their property expired. They might have already gotten past it. They might be in the anger phase. They might be in the acceptance phase. You don't know where they're at. Meet them where they're at and keep following up with them. And that's what's the most challenging thing for agents, Brian. It's not the first conversation. They can have the first conversation with anybody, but it's that second, third, fourth, like I said, fifth, no. It's really challenging to keep up with these folks. That's where the ISA can add tremendous value on the long tail of conversion. So that's pretty much it. That's what we got, folks. That's what I got for you guys. I don't know if you had any questions or not, but if you do, drop it in the comments in the Facebook group. I look at those every single day. I can answer that, but it's been a lot of fun. Brian, this has been amazing. It's been joy, pure joy having you here because you know what you're talking about. You're a practitioner of a lot of these things. Really appreciate you having me on today.
Hey, Gus, that's great. But before we go, I want to do some great administrative stuff. So thank you, LabCoatAgents, for watching this today. Important, though, right now, Gus has 3 fully trained ISAs that he wants to put to work for you. And with that in mind, by watching this today, mention LabCoatAgents. We'll give you $100 off your dedicated ISA and $500 off their Build Your Own ISA program. And so reach out to them, get some information about that. Information's free. I'm sure someone at Gus's PowerISA would be happy to talk to you. And here's the thing, it's customized, and I love that idea. You know, my business is going to be slightly different than somebody else's, and they literally work with agents all over the country, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I won't fit. That's okay. We can make it fit for you, and that's one of the reasons it's a great company to work with. Amazing information today, Gus. Even if you don't want to use an ISA, look at all the gems that he dropped.
Yeah,
and I think they're great.
If you have an ISA, you are the ISA. You're the role. Do the job. Do the work, and then build it up to where you can hire someone on your team.
And I'll say this, all the people who are like, I can't afford an ISA, first of all, it's a lot less expensive than you think. And second of all, Gus pointed it out. If you want to grow your business, past clients and spheres have been amazing for the last 2 years, right? That being said, start figuring out how you're going to have long-term consistent business coming into you. That's what's going to make it work. So those of you who found a lot of value in this, and I know that I did, listen to all the stuff that Gus said, this will also be replayed on the Lab Coats YouTube channel. You can listen to it as many times as you want. And Gus, thank you for educating us today and talking about where this market is going and helping us put together a plan to be successful. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Gus, and we'll all catch up soon.